All right, welcome back, everyone, to another very inspiring
I
episode.
don't think.
Oh, it says live.
Yes.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to another very exciting episode of The Extraordinaire Within You. I'm your host, Kavita, and today I am so excited because we're celebrating two very important events. The first one is Veterans Day. So before we get started today, I really just wanted to take a moment and thank all the brave men and women who have served in the United States Armed Forces. Your courage, dedication, and sacrifice to protect the freedoms we enjoy every day. Thank you for all you do. And I also like to give special recognition to all the doctors and healthcare professionals who are veterans and those who have both served in uniform and in the healing profession. And in order to honor that, today I have a very special co host with me, Dr. Sunit Chauhan, who will be joining me, who is a highly respected MFM specialist at Christiana Care in Delaware, an educator, a researcher, and a proud veteran of the United States Armed Forces. Sunit, I'll let you say a few words in honor of the U.S. Armed Forces for Veterans Day, and I'd love to share this beautiful slide for you as well.
Thank you, Kavita. It's hard to imagine all the sacrifices veterans make while they're on duty, be it in America or abroad. Um, I think we forget often and how we influence and improve the outcomes, not only for the patients we saw, but also for our image of United States abroad. So I want to just thank every veteran formally and in the future for their dedication and service to United States.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sunit. And for our second celebration today, the second big event is today, the Extraordinary Within You turns one. And to celebrate that, we have an absolutely phenomenal guest, our very own Dr. Vincenzo Berghella, who is the editor in chief of this amazing platform and journal for AJOG MFM, the co founder, co host of this incredible series, and the division director of OBGYN and MFM at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. As you all know, Dr. Berghella is a renowned leader, researcher, educator, clinician whose passions for improving outcomes for mothers and babies have made an extraordinary global impact. And today I am so excited for to hear his story. I've heard his story multiple times, and every time I still am so inspired. So I'm so excited to have you here with us, Vince. Welcome. And as always, we start with some gratitude. So I'll let you go ahead, say a few words, share something you're grateful for, and we can start.
Thanks, Kavita. It's a pleasure to be here. I, Sunit. I'm going to blame Sunit for this invitation. And I'm obviously
Yes.
honored and humbled. We've interviewed amazing people. So thank you for having me today. I guess I'm grateful for for being here today, for being invited. This is a wonderful series that you have, the Extraordinaire Within Me. I've had the honor of having the career I above my dreams, and while we talk about personal things, obviously my professional accomplishments call me to get interviewed by you guys, and I just thankful for having done what I like to do my whole career, and being with such wonderful company. So really a pleasure to be here with you this morning.
No, the pleasure is all ours. Thank you so much, Vince. Sunit, we'd love for you to share something you're grateful for too.
I'm grateful for my family, both at home and my professional family. So anyone who inspires me, I'm always grateful for. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. And for me today, I will say I am grateful, apart from the opportunity to be here at this platform with you and celebrating Extraordinaire turning one, I'm grateful for love. Today is my wedding anniversary with my husband. We have two anniversaries, one where we actually got married and one is our US legal. So this is our US legal anniversary. So, and it makes you realize that love in all forms, whether it's through romantic love, friendship, family. It is really what makes the world go round, and it's so beautiful to have such loving people in our lives. So that's something I'm truly grateful for. So thank you.
Happy anniversary to you and Tori.
Oh, thank you, and thank you. All right, and now I'm going to jump in with my favorite question that we always start with is if you can tell us a little bit about how your childhood, shaped who your career and who you are today.
Great question. So definitely I was shaped by my mom and dad. Um, in particular, my mom is the classic mom who loved me unconditionally. She always said, how did I, actually she said, come ho fatto a fare un figlio così bello? How did I make such a beautiful kid? And basically, there were no limits on what she thought I could do. She always supported me, and again, I could feel the love. In fact, I think I left the country eventually because I was so sure about her love, unconditional, that it's part of me. And she's still alive. She's 87, and that really gave me the strength to go on and face any issue. And my dad, I in retrospect, I've been thinking about this a lot over the last couple of decades. I was born in a small town, 10,000 people, and he was the local OBGYN, and people stopping him in the street and saying, thank you for helping me have this baby, and helping me with my health in general. So much admiration. I really looked up to that. He was a very hardworking person. Sometimes I wouldn't see him for a week or more. He was on call all the time. But I remember Bernarda episode. We had a close friends who, having her third baby, almost died of a postpartum hemorrhage. But apparently, he saved her life. And I know her three daughters and stuff. And those kind of stories really shaped me. I didn't understand, the medicine or any professional aspects, but I could tell the how he was changing people's lives for the better, how he was helping them, and how he was looked up to, majorly. Again, in a small town, you probably feel that even more. And that again gave me the inspiration to one day, even be 1% of what he was. So I think that those were things that shaped my drive, maybe from my dad's side, and my serenity, from my mom's side.
Mhm. Yeah,
Beautiful.
that's really beautiful. Yes, go ahead, Sunit. Sorry.
No, I think that's a nice symbiotic inheritance you got.
Mhm. That's why. Now, Vince, when you're sharing, with your dad being an OBGYN and as a kid, seeing that, did you ever get a chance to go watch him working? Like, did you ever follow him at the hospital or anything? I'm very curious. And if so,
You're
like,
gonna make me cry. That brings up
that's so.
amazing memory. Yeah, he was so unlike me. He was a very tough guy, very traditional. In fact, he didn't hug me or he would shake my head, he wouldn't kiss me. He was very, very tough guy. And I'm, retrospect, I missed that. Thank God my mom did it for three or four people. So, so I got enough from the other side. Yeah. Once I must have been 16, 17. I was still in Italy, and I went and scrubbed. I forgot it was a hysterectomy. He mostly did GYN,
Hmm.
and that's what he liked. And, we had clothes gowns, in Italy, not paper.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
And he tied me in the back. And the nurses and his colleagues, who were completely afraid of him, but this time it was the head of the small community hospital, OBGYN division department, and they were like, they couldn't believe it that he was taking the time to help somebody and doing it for me. Um, those were the moments in which I felt the love. He was very much somebody who wouldn't let anybody else do anything, in the case. He mentored a lot of people, but really by them watching what he was doing. And that's how it was, many years ago. And obviously, I learned, you learn from your mentors. This really was my first and biggest one. And you learn what you like to do the same. He was the smartest person I've ever met. but also try to do things differently in terms of, I went into teaching and helping people and showing them what I was doing, and again, different times, and he was unbelievable inspiration to me. I always felt I could never do enough. Maybe there was an Oedipal, maybe I'm the professional here, Oedipal complex. I wanted, my mom to love me, and she did all the time, and she was very, very in love with my dad, and so it was a good thing. I think, in fact, she loved me so much that he was a little jealous of me, and in a great way. And anyway, it was a very, very positive experience that definitely shaped who I am. I always say, I have 4 kids. I always say that the most important years, when you're shaped, or when before 4 or 5, and by 8, you're going to be sincere or not sincere, honest or not honest, hardworking, not hardworking, brainy or no brain, etc. And I think very early on, I was shaped by the two of them.
Wow.
Vince, did your father ever see you in America or see you, quote unquote, operate at Jefferson?
Mm, so
Good
neither
question.
of my parents spoke a word of English. I came when I was 19, and he came, I think, 3 times. I've been in the States over 40 years. He came 3 times. He passed away 6 years ago, unfortunately.
Oh,
Right.
He got it, even without speaking English. He came to some conferences. I remember, Sunit, once, you will appreciate this. It was their anniversary as well, Kavita, their wedding anniversary, and I invited them to FIGO. There was a FIGO, the International Federation in Rome, and so I organized the whole thing. I registered them for the conference.
Oh,
We
wow.
stayed together. It was their 50th anniversary, in fact. And it was one of the times he saw me. Like, I had a couple of big plenary oral at Figo,
Mhm.
8,000 people are watching you. Um, I introduced him to the president of Figo,
Wow.
who knew me, and he, not only them, but in general, he was very impressed. Unfortunately, he couldn't follow what I was saying, or exactly what I was doing. Like, every time he was kind of surprised. The books I published, he was like looking at them and trying to read them, and I think very impressed, but at the same time always humbled. He never, unlike my mom, who praised me maybe even too much, my dad was never somebody that who praised me that much. But I knew, from his, just his eyes, his
Mhm.
behavior, that he really looked up to me. At the end, I'm gonna remember. I have this book on happiness, and the first thing I wrote on that book is, when my dad once told me that I did so well in life, both personally and professionally, that I left him in the dust. It's an Italian expression, like, that I did so much better than him, which is not true. Um, but and it was one time, like, we were
Mhm.
together 55 years, and he told me once a big compliment like that, but it meant a lot, and I know he really admired me, which is probably the biggest accomplishment in my life.
Wow. Wow. Like, thank you for sharing that. That is so truly heartfelt. And I'm sure he's so immensely proud of you, the impact you've done for the whole world. And, with that being said, like, what inspired your journey to leave Italy and come to the US? You were in this loving environment. You were, what was the reason?
Yeah, again, probably related to my parents. So I wanted to study in Bologna, where he had studied, which is a big, university, the oldest university, 1088. And he told me, no, you have to stay close. I know the people here at the local university. I can help you. And I really didn't want to be helped. I already felt
Hmm.
I would be the son of, my whole life, the son of Andrea. And that's how I was recognized, around. And I kind of felt like I needed to be myself. I was lucky enough, when I was 18, I met an American guy in France. I was trying to learn some French with my sister, and then I went to visit him when I finished high school at 19. In Italy, high school is 5 years. And basically, fell in love with the country. First time there. My English wasn't very good, but I picked up an application. As a famous story. Just one college. Applied, to take English classes, and eventually, you know, I thought I was coming over for 4 months.
Mm.
I actually took my local medical school books with me and never studied them. Passed the biology exam. In fact, I didn't pass it, but the teacher said, Your English is so bad. I got a 56 out of 100, so I failed it. But she said, Oh, maybe your English is not that good. You can start, take whatever you want. We'll give you biology credit. I took
Mm.
microbiology, the hardest class. I didn't understand a thing that the teacher was saying. Her nickname was Motor Mouth Mary. She spoke so quickly. But I soon got an idea that I could kind of get everybody's notes, and she took the test. The test was from what she taught in class, not from books. And I got a 99 on the first
Wow.
microbiology test because I studied so hard. And from then on, I kind of get an idea that I could do well.
Mm-hmm.
I
Hmm.
kind of told my parents that I wanted to see if I could get in medical school after college. I did college in 2.5 years. And to their credit, again, they supported me. 20 years later, my dad said that they would drive me from Pescara, my hometown, to Rome, 2 hours. And my dad told me that my mom on the way back would cry for 2 hours, which
Hmm.
if I knew then, I would have probably not had the guts to stay. But I
Mm-hmm.
was a 19-year-old, near New York, Manhattanville College, good friends, studied hard. I didn't think I was going to get into medical school. I have to tell you the story real quick. I applied to many. I've applied to Harvard, Yale, you name it. And my advisor said, in the last 3 years, nobody got into medical school from Manhattanville College. So I think you may need to lower your expectations a little bit. Uh, and her husband had gone to Jefferson, and so she said, I applied to Jefferson, I applied to Hahnemann, which was the name at the time, other universities. Some actually sent me back the check. I was
Wow.
at NYU, sent me back a $50 check, said, we
Wow.
can accept you. Everybody else took the check and still rejected me. So it was April of kind of, at the end,
Uh-huh.
gotten rejection. Some actually never replied. But then it was all by mail. And one day I got another thin envelope, and to my girlfriend at the time, I said, open this. I can't. Like I didn't know what I was going to do
Mm.
at this point. Was I going to go back, with kind of the tail between my legs to Italy after almost 3 years in the States, and what they had done, lost all this time. And she opened the letter, and it was Jefferson acceptance letter, which then changed my whole life.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the credit goes to Jefferson Medical School for both of us.
Yeah. For both, how you went here, I love New York. I miss New York, but Jefferson has really shaped my life. My oldest son is an MD PhD student here. Now
Wow.
I really have the colors here are blue and, and black. Certainly my professional career has been shaped by this
Wow.
institution here. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. No, thank you so much for sharing that, Vince. If you take, I love to ask this question. If you take a 30,000 foot view of your life, what would you say are maybe three pivotal moments in your life that, it sounds like you leaving Italy, coming here was one big one, in your career. What would be another important pivotal moment?
Professional moment.
Mhm. Yeah, but you can share professional or personal, I think. Yeah, that would be great.
Uh, there's so many. Certainly what was the moment I picked up that application. I mean, you talk about like, moments that change your life. It was like I'm getting a pamphlet, to just, read something like, I wasn't even at that time, thinking of applying. Then when I went back home and opened my suitcase, I found the application, which I kind of brought back as I don't know, a memento, of the United States. So that was a pivotal moment. Yeah, probably the moment I got into medical school was another one. I guess another one was when in this office at the time, kind of a similar office, when I was finishing fellowship in MFM, and Ron Wapner, my other huge mentor,
Mhm.
told me like, do you want to stay? It was October of my last year, and it would be my dream. I really looked up to him, and still do. And I basically shook his hand. Didn't know the salary, didn't know my schedule, didn't know anything. But that was another pivotal moment because it was a great division. Hopefully, still is, and professionally, that changed my life. On the personal level, I think a few women I have to thank big time. My mom. Um, my first wife Paula was incredible. Very supportive, very understanding. She's been great. We're still in great terms. I see her all the time. Obviously, my wife Federica now has, the pivotal moment I met her, I think was a big time. It changed my life. She really saved my life in many ways, and made it better. I'm so happy I can support her now in her wonderful career, and the birth of each of our kids. I think those were great. And I'm going to remember one more person. There was an assistant, Lynn. I had the same as administrative assistant for 20 plus years.
Wow.
Who always said, your secret, Vince, is you never waste a second. You're always going.
That.
She's always going something. She knew me really, really well, and so I talked about my mom before. This women, I probably could have my sister, who is one of my confidant, have really, really supported me, helped me. Um, I always felt that I was, in some way loved and supported.
Wow. That's beautiful. So go ahead.
Question, Vince. Knowing what you know, what would you wish your younger self, for not only for yourself and other younger people, would know?
Good question, Sunit. I wrote this book on happiness, and I talk about it all the time. I think, keeping up with relationships. Life is about love, like Kavita wonderfully said at the beginning, and friendship. Recently watched a movie, Sunit. We've been friends for a long time, which said, at the end, it's all about friendship and love between people. So I think I did pretty well, but cultivating your partner's relationship. That's why I wrote Love Happiness. You have to work at it,
Mhm.
so in a way, I've no regrets in terms of I went to Italy 2 to 4 or 5 times a year every year, cultivated my family there, cultivated my family here, good friends like you. That's probably the biggest message. And then the second message is, as I always say, do what you like to do, especially once you get into fellowship and after, you can really concentrate on the things you like to do. And, sports, hobbies,
Mhm.
pastimes, whatever else. If you work on your strengths, and I wish I knew that earlier, like you say, like as a 20-year-old. For example, my older sons, 28 and 26, I know the first one is strength is achiever. So I
Mm.
feed that all the time. He wants to achieve, the sky's the limit. The second one is communicator. He needs to be around people. He cannot be in front of a computer. Um, and he works in finance, so he interacts with a lot of people, and that's good for him. Um, Fede is empathic. She really helps helps people out, and it's a perfect place, in medicine. I wish everyone kind of knew their strengths and forget working on weaknesses. I say this all the time. If you were never good at math, get a statistician for your research, and
Mhm.
and maybe write the paper, or if you were good at math, do the stats, and somebody else can write the paper. But
Mhm.
those are little pearls in life that should be taught, in elementary school, middle school, high school, um, so that you really get to find out who you are, and which is a wonderful thing at the end. The peak of the pyramid. It's
Mhm.
find out who you really are, why you were born, how can you best contribute with your own talents, to the world.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Mm.
Vince, if I may pivot a little bit to the personal, aspect, you talked so much and shared so beautifully about, your relationship with your father and how that kind of shaped who you've become. Now you have four children as well. It sounds like one of them is MD, PhD, very ambitious as well. How has that relationship with your dad? Do you translate into your parenting with your son? In any way, shape, or form, or do you feel you're a different kind of dad than your dad was?
Yeah, I'm very, very different.
Mhm.
And people need to be who they are.
Mhm.
So I think, my dad was like that, and I appreciate him and love him the way he was. Yeah, I'm very much like my mom, unconditional love, hugs all the time. My love languages are physical touch, and again, kisses and hugs all the time, and words of affirmation, just like my mom, kind of
Mhm.
giving compliments to people. Um, so that's the kind of dad I am. Sometimes I feel like I may be spoiling them, but that's who I am. I can't help it. And it's interesting that they're all different, and I've tried to foster, their own interests. Again, when my second one was, say that then I want to go into finance. Finance is going to be my major in college. I'm like, I don't know nothing about that. Where did he get that from? He got that from one of his best friends. Um, but I first, I never like he felt open and free enough to pursue his own dream, his own passion. He plays golf, like I'm a soccer fanatic, and tennis and other things. And first one, Division 1 rower in college, rowing, which again I learned from him. And then the second one, 6'8" basketball player.
Wow.
I played basketball. I was terrible, and despite my height, and he was really good. So yeah, that I learned a lot from them. I think that I see a lot of similarity between having kids and having residents, medical students, fellows. The same way, kind of support them enough that they can do whatever they want to do, and then let them go, let them fly, give them wings, so that they can become, in our field, whatever they want in MFM or BGYN, and as sons and now a daughter, also kind of find their own personal
Wow.
niche. Yeah.
Wow. That is so beautiful. Thank you.
That's amazing. Question: since my attention span is decreasing in old age, if you had one word to describe yourself, what would it be and why?
Maybe passionate. I didn't think about it. I should have read the question and prepared. Maybe, yeah, passionate, just because, again, I love a lot. I work hard, no question, and I hope I play harder. So if you see me again on soccer field or tennis, or the other day I went to see an NBA game with friends, and I was cheering the Sixers on big time, and I'm going to see LeBron with them next month. Hopefully, he's back from injury. Um, yeah, passionate about my wife, and the wonderful support she gives. She loves in the most beautiful ways. We speak the same languages, so it's easy for us to feel it. and she lets me, love her back. And Sunit, now I know how I pick passionate out of the blue. My mom calls me still now Passione.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
oh,
She doesn't call me Vincenzo or whatever. She calls me Passione. Like she could be again, in a serious, environment or more relaxed. And I always felt like bad for my sister and brother. Like, we don't call them Passione, And,
What
uh,
does he call them?
but that has also probably. I think she knew like that's her feeling towards me, but it's also who I am, kind of a passionate guy.
I love that. It's almost like she saw your strength in you since you were
Yeah,
little, and she kind of let you know since you were little and helped shape that. That is so beautiful. I love that you connected those dots together.
yeah, yeah. Just now. Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What is your why, Vince, behind, this passion? Like, why do you do what you do? Like, especially, your work on preterm birth and cerclage, like you've impacted millions and millions of lives around the world. Like, what inspired that for you?
Uh, I think early on as a resident, seeing this, healthy, congenital anomalies, babies, being born preterm and being so sick and sometimes dying. Um, I that was really like, and it was so important. As I always say, every 30 seconds a baby dies from preterm birth. 1 million every year in the world. It's such a huge issue, and it seems so simple to fix, which is not. But I think that was part of the why, and then Kavita, you'll see it in your career. Part of the why also becomes the, how can I say this? The feedback you get from patients in particular, and colleagues. A patient being thankful. Like the other day, I put something on top of my, on front of my door. I saw a 6-year-old kid who I helped delivered, um, the son of somebody who I know, and he was so excited about meeting the person who helped. Bring him to the world. He did a drawing, with me with a sewing.
Oh, like surgery or
Well,
something
being
like
a
surgery.
C-section, and so knowing that forever that kid will remember me as the delivering doc.
That's beautiful.
And then another story since Sunit is here. Sunit once sent me a picture of the evidence-based books we published from Malawi, and or I go to the Philippines and they tell me the books are the national OB MFM books. Having both from patients and colleagues that kind of feedback, because many times, every time the for example, for the book, the deadline comes that another edition is due. I'm like, no
Mm.
way, this is way too much work. This is inhuman. I'm not going to do it. It's too much.
Mm.
Um, but then again, from somewhere in the world, people say, thank you. I did this because you wrote that, because, your chapter, your up to date thing, your article. I do this section this way because, you published that article. And that feedback kind of keeps on feeding that why. It's kind of a catch 22 thing.
That's beautiful. And I can, as a testament to that, I'm from Thailand. And I think I told you not too long ago, my brother, who's now in neurosurgery residency, but last, a few months ago, he was finishing up his med school. And they had journal club during his OB department, OB rotation. And all the papers were all your papers. Yeah.
Wow.
And then he was like, he's like, this is Dr. Berghella that you do your podcast. I was like, yes. He's like, we all are reviewing his papers here, So thank you for what you do. It really does, it really inspires students around the whole world, truly. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vince, what would you like to accomplish in the last 10, 20 years of your career?
I think at this point of our careers, we need inspiring, young people to get to wherever they want. So really, that's what makes me happy. And I can even phantom the way they wanna be. I'll make an example of it. I could talk about anyone in my division, but Rup Shabolik, for example, is
Mhm.
published so much, and just gone on our one. She was promoted to the boards. But, Whitney Bender, Moti Gulerson, Huda Hakawatli, genetics maven. I mentioned Armando Roman. It's, Rodney was with, like so many um, people who I can inspire, the residents, matching in MFM or matching into MIGS or whatever else. I think that that's what, and see what they like to do. They end up in great places where I love to work. Um, Same with my wife, supporting her in her career. She's in an amazing place and can really makes a huge difference. In my kids begin to make a difference. Next year, my older son will begin to pick clinical rotations. Seeing how he is going to do. My biggest dream, I will say it, is to see my youngest daughter, who's only 2, eventually date whomever she wants and have life of her own. Um, yeah, those are the things I really look forward to. I tell people all the time I don't need to see my name in anything anymore, but I would love to participate into the intellectual stimulating part of what we do.
No, no, that's amazing. That's really,
Admirable.
yeah. Sorry, Sunit, I did not mean to cut you off.
No, I said that's admirable.
Yeah. Vince, and when, we talk about, journeys to getting to where you are today, sometimes for younger MFMs and students, we also want to understand like it's not always one easy road. Sometimes they are up,
Yeah.
sometimes they're downs. Are there any moments that, you're able to reflect upon or share that was, a huge learning moment? And what is the mindset that helped you get through when you go through challenges? Because, you've clearly made it all the way to the top, but what was that like? Thank you.
Well, my I think my most difficult moment by far was going through divorce. So it's a
Sorry.
personal issue, but obviously affects your whole being. It was super difficult. I really struggled personally to the point that I needed major help. It was a big disappointment, with myself. I never thought, things were going to end up that way. As I said, it was amicable. Um, actually, our 2 kids took it well and kind of said, we knew this was going to happen, even if we never fought. And my oldest one always said, "Wait, an idyllic, upbringing," because they did. They never complained that I traveled too much or that I worked too much. It was really, really good, and that's why probably we still have Paul and I a good relationship. Um, but personally, it was really, really hard. I mean, I can admit it now after many years. I was really suicidal at some point. I was so
Oh,
so unhappy, and eventually, Federica, as I say, it saved my life. But going down and having such difficult problems, it's helpful sometimes because it makes you realize what's important. If you don't make difficult decisions, you never go ahead. Another example I can make, when I came to the US at 19, I got 52 letters the first 3 months. And some of the letters said, "You're crazy," I left the girlfriend I had at the time. I left this beautiful family I just described, brother, sister. We were not rich, but we were doing fine. And people were like, "Are you stupid? What's going on?" But that was a huge decision that was difficult and shaped my life. And when you make decisions like that, you can't live regretting what could have been. Yes, I could have seen my mom and dad, more often, or my siblings.
mm,
But I made a decision myself. Nobody forced me.
mhm.
It was all my doing. And once you make the decisions, you have to embrace it. And like sometimes I say, back 2,000 years ago, the biggest kind of punishment was emigration. Like Dante
Mm,
would get kicked out of Italy, uh,
mm,
you know, as the worst thing, worse than jail. And I'm like, I did this voluntarily. Am I on drugs
mm,
or something? Um, but I did it for a reason, to find
Right.
myself, as I say, to grow and find my own personal path, which I would do a million times over. And unfortunately, I must say the same thing with the personal struggles, with divorce. I'm, you know, better off, and I think a lot of the people around me, including my kids and even my ex-wife, I think we're all better off. I hope Federica's better off to have found me, and I think we're a much better example of what love should be, um, and at the end, I try to always look for the win-win, but sometimes you have some major setbacks, and have to thank the my sister, the friends who were helping me at that point. It was really, really extremely tough.
Yeah. I'm so sorry you had to go through that, Vince. And thank you for being so open and vulnerable because, sometimes a lot of people go through things in life and feel so alone, but to hear someone share, suddenly you resonate, you feel like you're no longer alone. Just that alone, I think, helped people so much. So thank you. And I'm so happy that everything's worked out beautifully for you on the other side. And I hope it continues to do so in all the ways. Yeah.
Thank you for that candid acknowledgement, Vince. That's very uplifting for everyone in more ways than
Hmm.
any one of us are realizing at this moment. So thank you.
And Vince, if I may ask a little bit on that, because I feel like whether it's divorce or any other personal things that, if for students or anyone going through in life, sometimes if you're going through work too and you feel this pressure that you still need to give 100% at work, how did you kind of manage to still show up at work and do things or, how do you navigate that?
It was difficult, thankfully I have a very, supportive division, and, but that time, things were going well. I remember actually, like, everything was upside down. Around the same time, I got offered to be the head of OB in Rome, the most famous hospital, and it would have basically been in charge of all the national guidelines in Italy for OB, and be in charge of all of OB for the nation, which is really big. And my mentor there, a Chilean guy, really was head of the European Society, and was I was very tempted, and I had met Federica, and she was in Italy, and thought seriously about going back. Visited for a while. Um, she was great because she said, your two kids, two older kids are here. You can't leave, Philadelphia, as long as they're around. If they leave, they can leave on their own volition. But you as dad, and you need to be to, support them, even if they may be in college and school, etc.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I professionally, I took medication for 6 months, which was very helpful, and I had a lot of sessions, and that helped me. The
Mhm.
therapist was great, and again, another person who quote unquote saved my life. I'll tell you a quick story. Who I haven't told many people, but I don't mind sharing. I think unless you talk about important things, I don't like to talk about the weather or sports or
Mhm.
time, or even talk about serious stuff. I was so down on myself, and I was like, I can't do anything, and even daily leaving, stuff. And he would say, okay, well then, I was in a little apartment by myself by this time, and he would say, so did you buy groceries? Yeah, I did. Did you cook? Yes, I cooked. Is your apartment, tied up? Where you do in the clinic? Yes. Are you showing up at work? Yes. Are there
Mhm.
people who love you? Yes. And obviously, it took more time. This quick summary I'm making, but he made me realize that I was still functional. Even if I didn't feel I was functional, I felt very dysfunctional inside, but I was functioning, and I had people who loved me. I had goals. I knew what kind of love I wanted. I knew what kind of family I wanted. I knew what kind of actually example I wanted to be to my two older kids in terms of
Mhm.
love and passion, and
Mhm.
uh, you know, um, and um, and slowly but surely I came out of it. I did have a couple of days at work I was in front of the computer. I'm like, I hope they don't call me because my brain
Mm.
is just not functioning well. Uh, but they were, you know, brief, and I functioned anyway, even if struggling.
That's admirable. And I appreciate your the community of your colleagues and co-workers who helped you.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful. Vincent, you talk about personal stuff. Apart from all your academic work, you publish a lot of books on life as well. Like the happiness book, the love happiness book. Since when did you always have the passion to do this since very young, or was it something you did later in life? Like, where does that come from? Because those books are truly amazing and life changing. You've done a really beautiful work with that. So thank you. Yeah.
thanks, Kavita, for all the words of affirmation. You guys,
I know what your love language is now, right? So I gotta feed into it now.
yeah,
Yeah.
no. I think again another thing that I didn't know. I wish somebody told me was my strength. I was good at both Italian, kind of English back then, and and math. So I kept a diary since I was 17. So I always liked to write, and I found a good combinations of wanted to kind of get to the bottom of an issue. I'm very, very curious. My number one strength is learner. So I want to study,
Mhm.
I want to teach, I want to get to the bottom of anything. And I want to spread the word. And that's why, this series, books, articles, and for example, the Love Happiness book, I
Mhm.
probably been writing it since I was a teenager, really.
Mm.
I was collected poetries. I read a lot. I read every day, tons of books. Usually nonfiction, non-medical books, and I read a lot about love and happiness and life in general, um, and I think that taking notes and thinking about it under the shower in the morning, I think about this stuff, Kavita, and I come out of the shower and write,
Yeah.
thoughts, and then eventually, if you do that, your whole life, you have so many notes, and I kind of I make a parallel between a scientific article and a non-scientific piece, book, whatever. To me, it's the same way. Like love is the same thing as cervical length screening or circle. There is science.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
is science to that. There are randomized studies on both, and I kind of want to get to the bottom of what it is, and then make it understandable to lay people, to everybody. And as I write, I actually learn. As I write, as I teach, it's my best learning. Kind of, okay, this, and then the idea, the bulb comes off. Oh, this is another thing, and then another paper, and then another book come around. It's almost like a big tree, all these leaves, and all of a sudden a few new leaves, from the same branch come up, and I get new ideas. But it's very, the concept of flow. We haven't talked
Mhm.
about. I was in flow a lot as a kid, and my mom always said, it was so easy to raise you. I forgot where you were because
Mm.
I've been quiet playing with my, little cars or whatever Legos for hours, and I do the same here probably. When people sometimes walk into my room, I startle because I am so concentrated on whatever I'm doing.
Wow. No, I love that. That's so amazing. So, Neat, go ahead. Sorry. You.
Um, is your passion, or is it possible for you to be contagious to the young generation? And if so, how and how do we imbibe it?
So I was reading another book last night.
Mhm.
I,
Maybe I should pick up reading.
I think our young kids are going to Montessori school, which I never endeavor, but it's an interesting concept. Um, it's yeah. I think being a mentor at work and a father, you want to be the best version of yourself. If I was myself, I probably would have a lot more vices. I would watch a lot more TV, or do unproductive quote unquote things. I still do, I still watch some soccer highlights and things like that when I need to relax. But um, yeah, it's a two-way street. I want the passion to be in fact infectious. I
Mhm.
want my little butterfly wings movement to cause a tsunami in Thailand, right? That's what they say. Actually, Kavita. you know, it's I think it's good that people find out who they are, that people find out their strengths, find out how they want to be happy their own way, and everybody's different. Sometimes I've been accused. I'll tell you another quick story. I've been accused of being too much. So my younger brother, like, I would go home, for a week or two, and I'd like, oh, come on, let's go play tennis and soccer and this and run and then. And my brother, one day, like 10 years ago, he said, "You know what? Can you shut up one sec?" Like, and this is my own brother. Like, I love him to death. Like, I just need to relax. I want to watch TV. You don't have to talk. I'm like, really? It was really, I was really almost offended at the time. Like, what's wrong? But I need to respect who he is. Like, that's the way he is, and I think maybe it was good that I moved, from being too much, and he could be himself, in his own continent. But yeah, that's the only thing I'm afraid of. That sometimes I may be too much for some people, but then I retreat and do something else. Not everybody, shares the same idea, and I accept that. 20% of people didn't want to get the COVID vaccine. We all tried, but at some point, if some people don't want to
Mhm.
do some things you believe in, you respect it and move on.
Wow. Yeah, no, that is so beautiful. You just know how to milk the life out of every moment, and I think that's a beautiful thing. you know, and from all the roles you've wear, all the hats you've worn, whether it's personal, professional life, what do you think is your favorite role that you've had?
Father, for
Oh,
sure,
I
for
love
sure.
that.
Number one, number one. It's so great, to see them grow and being better than you are. Yeah, father, and husband. Those are by far the yeah, just mentoring people and hopefully finding out, as I say, what I want to do. And I think I had so many kids because I think each of us can contribute to the world and hopefully tell a positive story that is infectious. And I hope they, in their own way, introverted way or extroverted way or scientific or non-scientific, they do that. And I'm very happy to say that so far so good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Wow.
What are you looking forward to doing this week? The remaining week.
So this week we're going to see some good friends in New York, who have kids about our age. This weekend, we actually have a new chair at work, so I wish Janelle the best, and working with her, with the group. We have a meeting every Thursday with the division. I love it. For 4 hours, it's education and really community and friendship. We start always with a phrase, and a question that we all share the answer to. So I'm looking forward to spending it with nice people. Oh, a secret. Um, Yesterday I watched a movie. Last night Federica was on call. Put the kids to sleep. I had about an hour. I finally relaxed, unwind. I watched the movie, and from the movie I got the idea that we're gonna go on a date in a couple of weeks. So I booked a date for tomorrow at 7. Just the two of
Oh,
us. Yeah, those are some of the things I look forward to.
What was the movie so I can make sure I watch it too?
It was a little movie. I am a rom com, very girly kind of guy, and it was "What's Up with the Morgans" or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, and but they made a point at some point. They were actually separating the couple. Then, of course, at the end, everything goes well, and they he secretly booked a date, and I'm like, okay, I gotta do the same.
I love. We'll keep it a secret. We won't tell Frederica, but I feel like she's probably listening to this because she never misses any of your sessions. I feel like she watches all of
Yeah,
them.
maybe.
No, no, that's amazing. I think we're kind of coming towards the end, the last 5 minutes here. So, Vince, I wanted you to, is there some important message or something you want to leave for the generation, of MFMs that are listening to this from around the world? Um, Whatever you'd love to share.
I think cherish your relationships. It's really, really important. We can't live by ourselves, and there's science to that. We're really, now for millions of years, community people. We need the village around us. So you don't need 1,000 people. Maybe you don't even need 200 people, but the handful or few people, your significant other, if you don't have one, best friends, family, certainly. Um, and sometimes you don't get along with your family, and that's fine. Like I said before, sometimes that doesn't work, but please cherish your relationships. Another one big, for example, predictor of happiness at work is to have a best friend at work.
Mm,
And so, like, for example, for me in the morning, I get up passionate about going to work because I know what's next. But at the end of the day here, I'm passionate about going home. So try to make your life like that you have some good people at work to interact with, and to support, to support their life, and some people at work, at home, that you can also support. I truly, truly believe more and more than to give is much better than to receive.
mhm.
And kind of I live by that. I know that if I give a lecture, an advice, a gift, a word of affirmation, a hug, it's I'm doing some good, and hopefully the good then gets passed on by that person who I gave some good to.
Wow. That is so beautiful. Sunita, did you have something you wanted to say? Sorry.
No, I think Vince, you have changed a lot of people's life, including my own. Though we were never at Jefferson, you have always inspired me, and we're still trying to keep up with the younger Jeffersonian, is my excuse. So please know that you have helped more people than you realize.
Thank you for being such a good friend, Sunit and Kavita.
Yeah, no, thank you too. And I will say I echo the same thing. You've been an incredible mentor and friend and an inspiration. And every time I talk to you, I mean, we sit and have these conversations every month, and every time I still walk away, feeling like, oh, inspired again, and like you're fulfilling the exact goal that you want to, that you leave people better than you found them. And when I hear your story, it reminds me of this beautiful quote. I don't know if you've heard this. It says, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do that, because what the world needs is more people that feel alive. And Vince, in your case, you've managed to cover both. You figured out what the world needs and what makes you come alive. And I honestly think that is the recipe for unstoppable magic for yourself and the world around you. So thank you for being the incredible mentor, everything that you are. So thank you so, so
Thank
much.
you. You said it beautifully, Kavita. Um, at the end, you want to leave the world a better place, and I think that you couldn't have said it better.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Vince, please go ahead.
Thank you, Kavita, for organizing this, and thank you for doing it for over a year. Vincenzo, thank you for switching roles with me, and both of you are doing an incredible job, as is the Pink Journal.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching us. Thanks, Kavita. Thanks, Manit.
Thank you, everybody.